Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of PlayStation Pursuit. This is a long-awaited episode because a few weeks back I went to Pittsburgh on a game hunting tour with my good friends Scott, Oleg, Adam, and April. We had a fantastic time. You can check out the road trip video I did for that fun adventure in Pittsburgh and actually a little bit of West Virginia. That weekend was a very, very fruitful weekend for the PlayStation Pursuit. I got a lot of games. I'm going to show all of them in this episode, so there's going to be no PlayStation favorites this week, just because I want to go through all the games I got in one episode, and I'll tell where I got them from and everything. So hang tight and I will show you what I got. Okay, so before the trek even began, my good friend Oleg, who goes by Mr. Syntastic on YouTube, on his channel, check it out, he found some PS1 games while he was out at a garage sale. And he was buying some games off of me anyway. I gave him a little bit of a discount since he had these games that he was offering to me. So he was happy and I was happy. And anything too mind-blowing, but stuff I didn't have, and really glad to finally have these in the collection. So the first game is called 40 Winks, and it's still got some sticker residue on it, and this is a famous platforming game for saying "move over Mario" from Nintendo official magazine. A funny quote there, but it actually is supposed to be decent. I think the controls are one of the problems with it, but graphically it looks really good. And I read that there was going to be a N64 port of it, but never came out, so excited to see what that's like. And then I have a lot of games here, so trying to organize them without destroying anything or dropping them. So if you hear things fall, that would be unfortunate. Anyway, this game is a sports title, VR Baseball 97, and it says the only real-time 360-degree 3D game. And the case is broke, but like I always say, those are easily replaceable. And, you know, might actually be kind of fun. I don't play too many sports games, but it'd be interesting to see the difference between all of them when I have the full set. I'll definitely want to check them out at least for a little bit. This is a game that I know isn't supposed to be very good, but I've always wanted to check it out, just because there's an N64 version and a PS1 version. I wanted to play the PS1 version because I feel the D-pad controls, knowing how this game controls similar to the fighting game it's based off of, I think the D-pad on the PS1 I'd like more. And the PS1 version has full motion video cinematics for the storyline rather than still pictures, and text, which is what the N64 version have. And that is Mortal Kombat Mythologies Sub-Zero. It's in pretty good shape. Has I forgot this guy's name. Not Landy, that's Shenmue. This was where this guy first came from, and then he was in Mortal Kombat 4 and other games to follow. But anyway, introduced a new bad guy, and for those of you who don't know what this is, it's a side-scrolling action game with the character Sub-Zero. And I would have liked to have seen them do Mortal Kombat Mythologies Scorpion, Mortal Kombat Mythologies Sony Blade. Yeah, see, I'm forgetting characters and everything. But I think because this game didn't do too well, it isn't that good. And I think one of the reasons it didn't do well is because the controls are Mortal Kombat controls still, and that if you want to have a game with jumping and climbing and platforming, you don't want Mortal Kombat controls. Batman Forever on the Genesis and Super Nintendo will show you right there that that's the absolute worst thing. So I will probably compare it to that. Is it better than the Batman Forever game that has similar gameplay style? So anyway, that's what I'll check out. Now I'm pretty sure this next stack here was a gift from my friend Scott, Grimsy42, as he's known on YouTube. He actually picked these up at some stores near him. They're really cheap titles, and I didn't have any of them, so that was really cool. And he's kind of keeping an eye out for me on stuff that I might not have that are just those commons while he's out and about. And if you hear meowing, my cat's meowing outside the door for some reason, which is kind of annoying. But anyway, just some common stuff. NFL Game Day 98, and I like it as the official NFL sticker on it, because I know that's the original case then that it was in. Then I have an absolute classic for the PS1, Mary-Kate and Ashley Magical Mystery Mall. And the back has like snowboarding and stuff on it, so interesting to see what kind of mall has a snowboarding mountain in it. But yeah, there's two Mary-Kate games, I think, for the PlayStation. I've seen them on the list I have. This is was a budget action shooter game that they had a series actually, and I have two of them, I believe, but I didn't have this one, so this is a good addition. And it is Spec Ops Covert Assault. And then before the word cyber going along with this person, you'd want to make jokes about cyber sex, and maybe there were jokes about it back in the day. Cyber Tiger, even though it wasn't cyber sex that he did, still now the scandal with him, seeing Cyber and Tiger, I can't think of, like, you know, another scandal in the making. Has a really cool full color disc with the looks like the alligator from was it Happy Gilmore? That's all I can think of when I see it. And I'm thinking maybe it's because it's got more of a cartoony style. I mean, he's definitely stylized on the cover and everything, so it might be kind of fun because I like Hot Shots Golf and those less serious golf games. This is a puzzle game that I actually see all the time, and I know it's cheap, and I had never picked it up, and so now that he got it for me, I don't have to pick it up. And I think it's a puzzle game. It's called Spin Jam. It says, "Puzzled You Will Be." And I think it's kind of like a Bubble Bobble where you launch... or not Bubble Bobble, Bust a Move, where you launch little balls and bubble things, but it's a little different. I think they go inward instead of being launched. But yeah, pretty cool looking game. Always wanted to play it. It says it's distributed by Take-Two Interactive, which is interesting, and I swear I saw something else on here that caught my eye. Oh, yes, it says mouse compatible, so I have the PlayStation mouse. It'd be interesting to see how compatible it is. And then the last game from Scott is a Kiss pinball game. And I actually like video pinball games. They're pretty fun. So, and I have a couple already for the PS1. So thank you, Scott and Oleg, for those games. Okay, so once we began our road trip, the first game store we went to actually wasn't in Pittsburgh. It was on our way. We stopped at Erie, Pennsylvania. Excuse me. And we went to a store called The Exchange, which is a chain that I had never been to before. And on this trip, we actually went to this one. And then some of the pickups I'm going to show, I believe at least one of them, I got at the... another exchange down near Pittsburgh. So I'm going to show just the exchange games together. And I'm actually going to show what I got at the second exchange first. Now, as you recall, I got the Spyro Collector's Edition with the white label. That's not the only Collector's Edition set that they have for PS1. There's a lot more that I want to get. I want to get every one of them. But when I count these towards my completion of the set, I will still count the ones, like... I have the original Black Label Spyros and these, but I'm counting... I have one Spyro 1, 2, and 3. I'm not counting those as separate games. Or at least that's what my list is. But I do want to get all the variants as well. So I'm trying to keep an eye out for the Collector's Editions first to get them through that, and then it'll be easier to track down the Black Label ones. But this one's probably the least that I'd want to get, but it was really cheap and it was sealed, so awesome to get this out of the way real quick. And it is the EA Sports Pack, so there's NBA Live 2002, Madden 2002, and NASCAR Thunder 2002. So pretty cool. It's only got a little tear on here, but it's sealed otherwise. So very, very cool. Glad to have that. Okay, so also at the exchange, I got a couple, I'd say uncommon commons. What I mean by that is games that I don't tend to see very much, but they're inexpensive, and I'm pretty sure they are cheap anywhere you can find them. It's just a matter of finding them. The first one is probably a budget Mario Kart clone. It's called Miracle Space Race, and the artwork looks really weird on it, but the graphics actually pretty good in the picture. So I'm hoping this is on the better end of the budget software, and not like some of the really bad budget games, because there's some good budget games on the system. That Strikers 1945 shoot 'em up I got was a budget title when it came out, and it's a really good shooter. So anyway, this one I've never ever seen before. I've seen the name on a list, but it's like so. I mean, I breezed over the name on the list, so it didn't even like catch my eye as like, oh yeah, it's that one I've heard of. This was like, what is that? And it is called Builder's Block, and I think it's got some sort of puzzle thing. I don't know. It's a very isometric angle. It looks like the angle you'd look at a pinball machine. But anyway, very uncommon, cool artwork, and neat inside box art. So very cool to have that. And then this one I always wanted to play, actually, because it was advertised in old magazines when I was growing up. There was in Electronic Gaming Monthly and stuff, I'd see ads for it. Don't think it's supposed to be that good of a game, but it's called Excalibur 2555, and it's it had like a rental store sticker with voids on it, so I have to work on getting those off, but I got the rest of the sticker off. But yeah, it looks like a pretty cool game. It's you know, like a medieval type game, but in the future. So I I'm guessing it's going to be like a mix of styles, art-wise and story-wise. So I always wanted to check it out. Glad to finally have it. And then the last game from an exchange store that I got, I was really happy to find this because it has a long box version that I want to get. But I've noticed a lot of games, it's actually harder to find the jewel case smaller versions. And this is the last one in this series that I needed a copy for on the PlayStation. And it's the first Wipeout game. Super clean, and it has one of my favorite things with it. A bonus printed from a computer from the year 2000 cheat sheet. I love when people have their notes and stuff in there. So anyway, pretty cool, typical Wipeout style, just really sleek and neat. And I actually don't think I've ever played the very first one, so very, very glad to have this game in the collection. Now, one of the games that I said Scott gave me, or Oleg gave me, I can't remember which one, might have come from this next store, because I know I got 3 games there, and I only have 2 games to show for it. There was a store right down the road from the Erie, Pennsylvania exchange called Buybacks, and they didn't have a lot of stuff there, but they did have this one game, and actually is what Scott mentioned he saw there, and I kind of wanted to get it. Now, I have the long box version right here, and it was a launch title for the system, Battle Arena Toshinden, and this is the smaller jewel case one, and it actually says not for resale. I'm curious if all of the smaller jewel cases were from pack-in with the system, which probably is the case, but if not, then very lucky to also get a not for resale version. And the disc itself has not for resale on it too. So I always liked Battle Arena Toshinden. It's not like the kind of fighting game that is a classic that's timeless and has lived on, but it's just very evocative of that time period and memories of first playing the PlayStation. It was one of those games that made a lot of people who liked Sega and Nintendo kind of not feel too bad about switching over, because they had a wide variety of games, and this was a pretty popular fighter along with the original Tekken. So glad to have this version, since I'm always looking out for variants like that. And then, like I said, I got another game that maybe I've shown already, or will show and misplaced with another store's stack, but I got this one, I know for sure, at the same store, and it's a golf game called Putter Golf, and it's one of those ones that's probably inexpensive anywhere you go, but I never see this. I've never seen the cover, and even looking at the back of the box, it's got like a really weird cartoony style. So it's funny, it says 3D terrain generator provides incredible realism to all the courses, but the graphics look awful. And actually I'm thinking it might have come out a little later, because it's advertising other budget games that have the certain logo of the bar across the top or bottom. The Miracle Space Race I got earlier had a bar at the bottom. So, and, oh, you know what? It's H-Tech, and I think they do budget games too. So this must have been a budget game back in the day. So pretty cool to have that one as well. So I think that's all I got from Buybacks. I think it was 3 games. So one of the other ones I'm going to show, and that. So once we got down to Pittsburgh proper, we met up with Adam and April, and they started tagging along for the ride, and we all began our true game hunting trek here. And the first place I went, it was called Wild and Woolies, and it might have been my favorite stop on the trip. There was 3 stores that really stood out from that trip the most, but this one started off with a bang. I mentioned in the road trip video, I got an action figure I've been looking for a while there, and then on reviewing and editing my video, I saw there was more action figures, but they were more like doll style figures, but from the same thing I was trying to collect, and I was like, oh, I missed it while I was there. But anyway, I got that. It was a figure from the show Lost, and I had that. Haven't shown that yet, but I mentioned it in that video too. But I did get 2 really cool titles at this store. One of them is really obscure, and the other one is a classic that I've been meaning to hunt down for a while, and it was at a very good price, so finally it was time to pull the trigger. So this one, I don't know, I know very little about it. I think it's got a lot of FMV, which is full motion video for the layperson, and I think it's got a lot of full motion video, and it's on 3 discs, so I think I've ever seen this. I have heard of this one before, but I've never seen this in a store. The game is called Juggernaut, and it's got cool but weird box art, like some sort of a head in a sphere wrapped by chains, so I have no clue what this is. It says prepare to open the gates of hell, so it's probably got a really cool, creepy vibe to it. But like I said, 3 discs and the manual, and the only thing wrong with it is on the outer case there's a little marker on the front and back, but I can easily get those off. So I mean, this is really cool because it's just one of those games, really hard to find obscure games, and I got it on the first stop in Pittsburgh. And then this is the biggie from the store that I got from a famous franchise, and that is Castlevania Chronicles. So Symphony of the Night's my favorite game on the PS1. I know this is different because this is a remake of the first Castlevania, and it might have some more extras and stuff in it. Yeah, original and arrange modes with graphics enhancements, but really cool. Yeah, it does look like it has different graphical styles. But anyway, really cool to finally get this, and it's in fantastic shape. Disc is phenomenal, and the artwork's cool too. So that was Wild and Woolly's. Definitely check that out if you're ever in the area. Okay, so the next stop was Game Vault, and that one had all the waves of cicadas you could hear in the outside the road. There was just, I think they said once every 17 years they come out and you just hear it. It's like shh. It sounds like a swarm is coming to kill you. And I only got one game there. I actually asked about a couple display things that said PlayStation on them, and they were like, the first one they said no, and they said, but I'm not opposed to selling stuff that's display stuff, it's just not that one. And then the second thing I asked, he's like, no. And I was like, okay, well, I guess you're opposed to two of the things I've asked for, so I've just stopped asking at that point. And there were a couple games that I wish I would have gotten looking back, but they weren't at like a bad price, but they weren't at a good price either, so I wasn't looking to spend a ton of money. And that's another good thing about this trip, is I definitely saved a lot of money going on this trip, because the games were a lot cheaper than if I found them elsewhere. So, and there was some sales and stuff, which I'll get to going on further in the video. So this game is the third in a series. It is Namco Museum Volume 3, and it's the M. Now, they have various versions that don't have the M, or the letter, but if you get all the ones with the letters, you can spell out Namco by putting them all next to each other. So I have the version of Namco Museum 1, but it's not the M or the N version. So really cool. As soon as I spotted that, and it was cheap too. It wasn't priced. I don't know if they are priced differently or not from the regular versions, but definitely hunt these down if you are looking for these games. These are the more uncommon versions, so you'll definitely want to get those. So that was the one game that I got there. So after the Pittsburgh area, we actually went over the border of West Virginia to a town called Morgantown. And these, I believe these next games are from the first store we went to, which is Cartridges Galore. And I didn't get any cartridges, but I got a stack of cheap commons, and I got a game that's very weird. Like, you'll see, like, I had to get it just because it's a very peculiar find. So anyway, I'll go over the cheap common games first. The first one, I actually have memories of playing this with a friend of mine who unfortunately passed away about 5 years ago, so I kind of was nostalgic to see this and remember the times I used to play with him, and it is Cool Borders 2. Pretty famous series back in the PS1 days, but it's not the best snowboarding game. Like, once 1080 came out for N64, it blew it out of the water, or blew it out of the snow, I guess. And then I got this one as well, Cool Borders 2001. And maybe this was that random game that I got at the other store too. But either way, I got two Cool Borders games, and I think I already have one. I believe, yeah, I have Cool Borders 3. So, and I never see Cool Borders 1, so that's going to be an interesting one to hunt down. This game is another one of those games that I saw in a magazine and it always looked cool, so I'm glad to finally have this one in the collection. It's called Turbo Prop Racing, and I remember it always looked like it had bright, colorful graphics and everything. It might be a horrible racing game, but I've wanted to play it for a while, so really cool to get one of those childhood games that you looked at when you were younger, and now that you're older, you get a chance to spend your money how you want. Now this game, I have the second game and third game in the series, and this is the first one, but it's also the small case variant because it was a tall box game, and it is ESPN and ESPN2 Extreme Games. Now, when I was looking up the variants, I found out something very interesting about this game. Now, I mentioned that I kind of like the series because it reminds me of almost like Road Rash in a way, only you're on bikes and skateboards and stuff, but it's gameplay-wise feels kind of similar to that, like 2D sprites on 3D background nature of Road Rash, and maybe Skitchin' for the Genesis, another great game that I like. But what's interesting about this is the sequel was called 2 Extreme and 3 Extreme, and I have those ones. So you wonder, oh, is this 1 Extreme? Well, no, it's just called Extreme Games. But Extreme Games, you know, X Games, is an ESPN license, and the greatest hits version of this is called 1 Extreme, because by the time that version was put out, they lost the license. So the long box and this version, which I'm assuming is a little more uncommon than the long box, which was the launch version or launch window version. I just thought that was kind of interesting that it has variation. There's several variations to the game. So when I go for the greatest hits versions of these games, this one will say one extreme. But wanted to pick it up, and it's super cheap everywhere I go. So I just figured, hey, I'll get it at a lot, or with a lot of these other cheap games at this one stop. And then this one, it was another cheap one, and it's a racing game that's, you know, these games are fun to get for cheap because you don't want to spend that much on them, but when you're going for a complete set, you got to get them all. And this is the one that I mentioned is just so peculiar. So I'm going to start by showing the back and the side. It's a NASCAR 98, and there's a regular NASCAR 98 that I got to get, but this is the NASCAR 98 Collector's Edition. And the reason I have my hand on the disc weird is because I'm covering up. There is this giant 50th anniversary medal, and at first I was like, is this even supposed to come with the game? But it's a gold medal, and everywhere on it, even on the back, it says, you know, 50th anniversary features and stuff. So, and Scott was with me, and he said that he's seen it before, heard of it before, so it is supposed to be there. I might remove the glue holding this on and maybe put it in a new case because of the crack and stuff. But I definitely want to keep that because just where do you find things like this, you know? So this was a really cool edition just because of how random and obscure it is. And it's in pretty good shape. The manual looks a little beat up on the back, but the front doesn't look too bad. And like I said, I can switch the case out and re-glue this onto there, or just keep it separate. So really cool. So that was what I got at Cartridges Galore. Moving on from there, we went to another store that very well might have been my favorite, you know, my favorite, tied with the top 3 stores of the trip, I'll say. This is one of them, and this was Vintage Videos and Games. They were super nice there, and I got a really big title off the list there that's actually been going up in price, so I'm glad I was able to get a good deal on it. And I got a cool little trinket, because, or 2 of the cool little trinkets, because in my road trip video I mentioned that this store has a unique nature to it, that, you know, it has these like piles of things they either haven't priced yet or are going to, but they will definitely look it up on the spot if you ask. So it's just fun to look around this store. So first I'll get the game out of the way, which is highly coveted game. Like I said, this version, the small jewel case version, is a little more coveted than the long box, and I did have the long box version actually before this video, but it was missing a manual and I wanted to replace it anyway. And rather than trying to find just the manual, I mean the sticker or the artwork on the box was kind of coming off too, so I probably would have wanted to replace the whole thing. So I wasn't the only one on the trip looking for this game, or possibly looking for this game, having it on our want list. April, who was with us, was looking at it too, and I happened to see this first because Scott showed me, and as soon as I saw it, I was like, I want it, and I felt bad, so I actually sold her for really cheap the long box version, because as long as I have one version to start, then I can always hunt down the variation. So I'm going to keep this one since it's kind of getting harder to find. Anyway, big intro. The game is Kingsfield 1. Fantastic price on it, like I said. Fantastic condition, which is awesome. And I have played it before. The reason this is spiking, if you don't know, the company who made this, they weren't called From Software yet, but a lot of the people who went on to From Software made this game, and because the Souls franchise is so popular nowadays with Dark Souls and Demon Souls and all that and Bloodborne, this is kind of a, you can tell that this is the roots of that. I mean, it's a lot more primitive and everything, but it's a first-person dungeon crawling RPG hack and slash hybrid, and it's really difficult. So really cool game. And there's a second one I have to get. I don't have that one yet. And there's actually kind of a quasi third one. Well, there's an import third one, and then there's a game called Shadow Tower, which I'm looking for as well, that's kind of in the same vein, and it's rising in price too. I could have got it for like $50 last year. I had too many games and I didn't, but anyway, fantastic find at that store. But when I was checking out, actually April was in the line behind me, and she goes, is that something from Chrono Trigger? And I looked, and all of a sudden I saw the box that came with it, that was behind it, and I was like, this isn't from Chrono Trigger, but it is from a PlayStation 1 game. So I mentioned in a past video how much I liked Chrono Cross, which is a sequel-ish in the same saga, I guess, of the Chrono series, and I really love the RPG Chrono Cross. And there was this box here, which is a little kind of similar to the size of a game case, and it has Japanese characters on it and stuff too. And what it was for, this thing is just so cool, is a Chrono Cross clock. So not a game, but definitely something that I wanted to pick up for the PS1 collection. And it has a battery in it, so as you can see, I put a battery in it, and as you can see, it rotates around. Just so cool. And since I have a lot of nostalgia for that game, finding this for me was really cool, because I'm like, I love that game. It has one of the best soundtracks ever, and now I have this cool trinket for the PlayStation collection. And when the room gets fully organized, once I sell my games and redo everything, I'm excited to set that up with the rest of the PlayStation stuff. Now, this last thing from vintage videos and games, I should have gotten it, but I was like, plus because I saw the clock, and I really wanted to get that, and I wanted to save money for future stops that we still had to do on the trip. But Scott was like, I've only seen this twice in my time game hunting, and he's been in a lot more places than I, so I probably should have just said yes, I should get it anyway. But luckily, Scott and Oleg decided to get it for me. So it is a controller, and it's really unique. It's the ASCII grip controller, and it's a one-handed controller, basically. And it doesn't have analog sticks, obviously, or anything, but this I could imagine being fantastic for RPGs, because it's got X and circle on the back of the controller, and usually in RPGs those are like confirm and back, and then triangle is right here in the front, so if you want to open your menu, I'm guessing that would work. Start and select above here, and then the D-pad. So I just can imagine you sit back and comfortably play with one hand. It would probably take a little bit to get used to, but I think a lot of handicapped people use this, and that might have been why it was made back in the day as a handicap option. But I think it'd be really cool for certain games that only use a few face buttons and the D-pad. I think this would be a really cool way to play. Scott was saying a shoot 'em up would probably be really cool with this too, where it's just you shoot and bombs and then you move with this. So definitely excited to try this out on many games. Who knows, it might be good for some of my favorite games like the Tomba series or other great platformers. So I'll definitely check it out for other games. Probably not good for 3D games, but really cool. And it's probably a JRPG wonder using this. So thanks guys for getting it for me and fighting past my stubbornness, because this is definitely a unique item for the PlayStation collection. Okay, you hanging in there? Because we still got more to go. That's why I'm not talking about my favorites this episode, because I definitely, as you can see, have got a lot of games. Now, this next store, they had two cool things going on. They had a buy one, get one sale, just straight up buy one, get one on any PS1, PS2, or I think Xbox, original Xbox. So that worked out in my favor, because I was like, hey, if I find a couple here, then definitely going to take advantage of this. And that one extreme game might have been from here too. I couldn't remember which store. But on top of the buy one get one, they also had a bin of common PS1 and N64 games that were mostly sports titles and stuff, and it was a 50% bin. And I found a couple 99-cent games in there. So a couple of these I got for 50 cents, which is really cool. So let me start with the one I know I got for 50 cents, and it is Madden 98, and I still got sticker residue, but one of the Maddens, I still want to get them, even though I might not want to play them. Really cool to get that for 50 cents. And then this is a cheapo game called Battle Stations. I've seen it before at other places. It's always super cheap, like $2 or something, but I got this for less. And looks like it's either an action or a strategy versus game. It might actually be fun. I don't know. Maybe it's like Battleship or something without the turn-based nature. And then this series I have played before, and I like this because it uses a lot of full motion video backgrounds to really set like a peaceful mood. And it's the Real Fishing series. Again, sticker residue I still have to clean off. And it's a Natsume published game. Or I don't know. Yeah, I think they published it. Maybe they developed it. I don't know. But really cool to get the first one. I know there's a second one on here, and it's in good condition. And I got that one for under $1 too. I don't think that one was 50 cents. I think it was like $1 or something, so it was still under $1 when I got it. And then you'll recognize this game because I got it in a past episode because the Greatest Hits version had a gold foil front cover. And I always mention how there's the non-gold foil cover for Greatest Hits, and then that there is a long box of this too. Well, apparently there's a jewel case version with a black label too, so I picked that up just to get that variant because I never see it. Tetris Plus, like I said, got it a couple episodes ago, but really cool to have this version. So there's at least 4 versions of it, and I now got 2 of them. So, and I didn't pay much at all for that either. I think that was another one in the buy one get one. There's probably another game I got at the store that I'm forgetting because the math doesn't add up for the number of games in this pile, but it definitely paid a little bit or only a little bit at the store. Now, this game, I definitely used the buy one get one. Now, I used the buy one get one to get a non-PlayStation 1 game. I actually got a different system game as the free game, and you'll see why, because I'm going to show it off. But first, let me show you the PlayStation 1 game I got. This game apparently is highly sought after and gone up a little bit in price because it is the only lacrosse sport game across, I think, most platforms, and it is called Blast Lacrosse. And I remember it advertised in magazines back in the day and stuff, so I had heard of this before and never really thought that it was the only lacrosse game. Actually, I think what I thought it was like a futuristic lacrosse game, but looking at it, it looks like it's just a realistic sports game. It's just by the cover and stuff, you'd think it's like future lacrosse game. But anyway, I got that, and they had an underpriced game for PS2 that I've always wanted to play, and it's really cool that this was the free game I got. So I got this for free. Not PS1, so we're taking a little break here, and I think we need a breather after all the PS1 games. It is a Robot Alchemic Drive. It's rad. And this game, it's really like choppy and weird and has really bad voice acting, but if you like the Earth Defense Force games, it's kind of like, imagine that kind of a world where there's giant robots and enemies, only instead of controlling those or shooting those from the ground, you actually remote pilot these robots from far away. So I'm sure the controls are wonky and stuff, but it's just such a unique idea, and I got it for free, and it's definitely climbing, so very happy. And these were all from the exchange. Not the exchange, the game exchange. So I said in the road trip video not to be confused with, and now I'm confusing myself, so you can't win them all. Okay, we're getting down to the wire here. The next game I got at a half-price Books, which we don't have in Syracuse or anywhere nearby, but I think I went to one in the South once on my way back from South Carolina. And they had, it's funny, I got the jewel case version of Battle Arena Toshinden 1 at the exchange earlier in the trip, and then on the second day I got Battle Arena Toshinden 2 in the jewel case, because this is another one that has a long box version, so I thought that was really cool, and it was cheap, and didn't have it. I didn't have any copy of that, so that was a pure addition to the collection, so very, very cool. And then that's all I got there, and then our very last stop was the famous Game Master's Realm, which again is another one that's probably tied my top 3 favorite stores of the trip. I like a lot of things about each one of them, so couldn't really pick a favorite, but what's great about this store is I got a couple games out of the way for real cheap, and then I also got one of my most wanted games for the PS1. Not necessarily the most rare or expensive or anything like that, but personally one that I wanted the most. So the first game I got, I have in Greatest Hits, so it's not on this shelf. I mean, it's actually lower on the shelf. It's not mixed in here. I wanted to get the black label, so I finally got it. So this won't change my number too much, but the game is Need for Speed 3 Hot Pursuit. I love this game. I'm probably going to talk about it in a future episode, so spoilers. But I really like this. Introduced the cop chases, and they just, back in the day, they felt fantastic. So really cool to have that. And then these two are cheap games that are kind of uncommon. I don't see too often. The first one, or maybe I do see this one a little bit, but not as cheap as he had it here. It is Tall Infinity. And it's basically a game where you, it's like moves up a tower, and it's like a kind of got puzzle-ish. When you walk, it like flips the blocks underneath you, and I think you can delete rows and stuff. Maybe it's kind of a mix of a puzzle game where the tiles rise mixed with a 3D game where you walk around a column. Really looks cool. The case is broke, but it's got a nice clean CD there. Advertises some other budget games, so probably was an Age Tech budget game. Actually, there's Age Tech on here. So glad to have that one. One thing that was kind of disappointing at this store that I didn't realize when I got it, there's a Hollywood Video rental sticker over the entire disc for Need for Speed. It's going to be a pain to get off, but I'm going to try it. And then, but if it can't get off, I can easily get a disc version of it, probably, you know, that doesn't have that on there. And then this next game I got has a cover over the disc from a rental store. These rental stores, they just were like, yeah, whatever, they're our property, we're doing what we want. And now I'm like, no, you're not around anymore, but the games are. But anyway, this is a game that has a long box variation I'm going to try to get as well. But I got the jewel case, and it's called Siberia. I don't know too much about it, and looking at the back and everything, I can't really tell if there's in-game graphics or it's all FMV, or if they just only show the FMV. But even when I looked up a video, I couldn't really tell what this game's about. But as you can see, movie gallery, and it's all over the disc. It's just a clear covering. So I do not like that as a collector, but I will try to at least get it off very slowly and carefully with a hairdryer or something, and then some Goo Gone. So anyway, this is now the final game for the Pittsburgh trip, and this game was on my list of, a couple of these were on my list of, games to look out for, but this is the one I wanted the most, and I'm so happy that I got it, and I actually got to play it at Game Masters Realm because Brian, the owner there, he loves this game and the anime, so it was cool. I got to play it there, and it just lived up to all the expectations I had in my head, so that's really awesome. And once again, it's a game that I saw advertised and reviewed in Electronic Gaming Monthly back in the day, so I've wanted to play this since then. That's why it was one of my most wanted games. And it is Ghost in the Shell. And it's such a cool game. It has animated cinematics, just like the anime. It's basically like a new episode of it. And you ride this red tank thing around, and it's like a spider tank. And just really cool box art and disc art. And just this game, I absolutely love the way this game looks. The graphics look really good. Like, it's one of those games that uses the strengths of the hardware to just make a really neat game. And what I like about it is it was before analog controls, but it's just buttery smooth moving around. You can use the shoulder buttons to strafe, and the spider robot can go up any surface and over rooftops and everything, so you just are constantly moving and strafing around enemies and stuff, and it's just so cool. Like I said, lived up to all the expectations I built up in my head, and what better game to get at my last stop on this entire trip than a game I've wanted this much. So super awesome. Thank you, Brian, for the fantastic deal. He had it priced already at a great deal, and then all the stuff I got at his store, he gave 10% off for first-time customers. So thanks, Brian. So awesome. Couldn't be happier, and couldn't be happier with the trip. It was an awesome, awesome time. So it's that time, even though this episode's a little longer than usual, it's that time where I crunch the numbers and see where I'm at since the last episode, so stick around. Okay, so now that I've crunched the numbers in my slow Neanderthal math method, I am now up to 384 PlayStation 1 games, so getting so close to 400. Very awesome, considering I started under 300 for the PlayStation Pursuit, and we're only a few episodes in, well, 11 now. It's really cool to see the progression I've been making, and thank you again to all the friends who are helping me out and all the people watching who have been supporting me. I'm really excited to see what I can keep finding, because it's just, even after this episode, I have some more that I know I'm getting, and I have some hookups that I'm getting, so the pursuit is going to be continuing. Really excited. So thanks again for watching. If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, if you've been watching these and haven't hit the subscribe button, please do me a favor and hit that, so that way you can automatically see the videos as they get posted. And I promise you I'll have a lot more fun stuff coming up soon. I actually have in the works some really big addition to the collection planned. Thanks to some friends giving me the hookup and the search that I've been doing. I've been communicating with a lot of people to really narrow down the hunt. So I'm going to be bringing in a lot of cool games soon, and I can't wait to show you what those are. So we'll see you in the next episode. Take care.